Today, I want to talk about something every founder faces, but almost nobody's prepared for. You have a great meeting, real interest, and then the other side just goes quiet. Not a no, not a yes, just silence. Let's make that moment easier to understand and easier to respond to. First, you need to know this: silence happens to every founder. Investors, partners, potential earlier customers, they all go quiet at some point. It feels personal, but the real causes are structural. There's something happening inside their world, not yours. In most business cultures, Asian and Western, people avoid saying no directly. They don't want to disappoint you, they don't want to close the door. So instead of rejection, you get silence. And that silence is confusing because it's ambiguous. It feels like the whole deal is in limbo. Let me ground this in everyday founder reality. You'll likely hear things like, well, let's discuss this internally. We'll get back to this is very interesting. Let me loop in my team. We'll update you soon. And then nothing. Well, those aren't rejections. Sometimes there's signals that a decision has started but never actually formed. Here's the simple truth behind every quiet deal: a decision only forms when four things are in place. There's someone who can actually sign off on this and take ownership of the decision. There's a reason to move now. There is a current approach that they're taking, whether a solution or a manual, that is costing too much, exposing too much risk, or leaking revenue. They feel safe trying it. And they have a business case that can travel without you being in the room. Even if one of these is missing, silence begins. Not because they don't like you, but because they can't move it internally. So the key idea is this: silence is not the decision, it's the moment before a decision forms or fails to form. If you had a real conversation and built real interest and demonstrated a solid business case, silence is most likely a diagnostic. If it was cold outreach, silence is normal. There's usually a shift before the silence. Fast replies become slow. Clear next steps become vague timing. Direct messages become polite distance. That drift tells you the internal decision has stopped progressing. It's not rejection, it's uncertainty. Inside that silence, real human things are happening. If it fails, I'm exposed. I'm not convinced the timing makes sense. I can't explain this well enough to others. These fears show up everywhere around the world. They're human concerns, not cultural traits. When the deal goes quiet, you don't need to push. A light question gives people permission to be honest. Here are three that you can use. Happy to adapt to your timing. Is anything shifting on your side I should know about? Would it be helpful if I put together something simple for others who need to review this? As we think about next steps, who else might want to weigh in? These aren't pressure. They make the next step safe. Here are two situations founders face most often. Scenario A, there's a missing owner. You're talking to somebody enthusiastic, but they're not the person who has authority to sign. In the second scenario, it may lack the ability to travel, your proposal. They like it, but they can't confidently explain it upward. In both cases, your goal isn't to convince harder, it's not to persuade, it's not to push. It's to give them clarity and something that they can share internally. As founders, we can't force decisions. We can't control timing. We can't control internal politics, but we can remove uncertainty. We can make the next step safe, and we can give people clarity to champion us inside their organizations. So here's the takeaway: when you treat silence as a signal instead of as a verdict, everything gets easier. You stay calm, you diagnose what's missing, and you choose the right next move, even if that move is to move on. Silence isn't the end, it's information.